And so today we're going to talk a little bit about how, first of all, why Jason's a great client. And first of all, he's a great client, and let me tell you why, because he's the founder of the company. And the reason that that's great is that when I go to a founder of a company and say, hey, let's do something with AI, or not just something, let's like do everything with AI, he's like, let's do it. And there's like no friction. We just go do it. And so I think we're going to talk a lot about today about sort of the journey that we're on, because you all know that there's no such thing as a destination in AI. It's like when I started my agency in '95, telling people that I think this thing called the internet's going to take off, like we weren't at the end of the internet journey, right? We're at the very beginning of the AI journey. So, do I have a clicker?
Oh, yeah.
Like all of a sudden I'm like, this does not do things by itself. Yeah. Big green button.
I was joking that I've gone from running creative departments with 80+ people, and now the creative department is AI and I, is basically what's happened.
Yeah.
So just using AI to do all the jobs that 85 creatives used to do for me.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, and he'll tell you some stories about even his plane ride yesterday, right? And so I just want to make sure that everybody understands that like no humans were involved in the making of this presentation. Our brains haven't been used at all. So we're going to move ahead. Who is Illicit? How did this come about, and what is your background?
Yeah, so my name is Jason Gaboriau. I come from the creative department. I studied fashion and design at FIT. Got jobs in ad agencies in New York City, started as a designer and art director, then a writer, then a creative director, had my own agency in New York City, and then ran 2 ad agencies out in LA as a chief creative officer. And about 4 years ago, a creative who worked for me by the name of Mike Cesario started Liquid Death. And that sort of opened my eyes to like, oh, wait a minute, there's another opportunity for us creatives out there. I wasn't thinking beverage, and then I was walking my dog and I saw my neighbor who's a VC guy, and he was asking what I was working on. I was working on something at the time, and I had this idea for, hey, the world needs more happy. How do we bring happy to the world in a real way, in a fact-based way? I was working with a functional neurologist on, boosting my dopamine, as you get older and stuff like that. And I said, I told him the idea, and he's like, I think that's genius. Let's go make it. And just having seen what Mike had done, and just knowing that, okay, I can do this too. So that's kind of where it started. So in the last year, this was just a year ago that we had the idea. We just started selling in stores about 6 months ago. But did I tell the whole story? Yeah. So I'm a creative, and now I own a beverage.
Right.
So I launched a beverage, yeah.
And it's really fun because, a lot of people, when we talk about AI, it's the creatives at first who are like, is this replacing our jobs, right? Like in the tech side of the world, like where most of us come from, it's like, oh, thank God AI is here. It's finally going to do the work that none of us really ever wanted to do in the first place, like massive data crunching and all this kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, you got some nerd on the staff that wants to do it, but like, generally speaking, a lot of this stuff never comes together. But a lot of creators are like, to hell with you, Satan, and like, I don't want to have anything to do with this. You're taking my job. So to have a creative leading sort of the AI and the creative front, and then having Uber Nerd working on the data side is like really kind of a gift, to be honest with you. So we'll get into that. Just quick about agency, who are we? I started the agency in 1995 as, I guess, one of the first and last left standing of the OG digital agencies. And so, AI for me has been something I've been hoping for many, many years. And obviously machine learning was part of that. But, where we're at now is just deeply exciting. And I need clients like Jason who really want to lean in because people are scared shitless. So let's talk a little bit about how you're going to go to market, right? So, and how you're in market. And you're coming up against some massive brands with massive budgets. Not to say you're not.
Massive budgets and massive contracts that are unbreakable. Yeah. And I think that was a big learning as well. Contracts with distributors, contracts with retailers, and then you talk about on-premise, you think, we thought we were going to launch this product in Vegas. It's a place where people like to have fun, let loose. The contracts of some of the, the big beverage companies is really unbreakable. So just, I think all the stuff that we learned, it's not as a great ad. I mean, I think I went in there really arrogantly of like, I'm just gonna do what I do. I'm gonna do some great creative, disrupt get people to know us, and then the world's going to want us. But there's a wall that you got to kind of break through. So that's kind of been interesting. And now you need AI to break through that wall, because now you're going to people directly, and that's AI is the only way to do it when you have no money. So I think that's why we're really excited by it.
And do you find yourself thinking, like, does AI provide to you some scale? Because, like, for example, like, obviously this is like a mid-journey grab that I did, right? I said something like, show a picture of a can of illicit elixir punching a can of Coca-Cola in the face, right? And that's what like one of the greatest prompts of all time right there. Thank you very much. Right, and this is what it comes back. Like, everybody knows that's Coca-Cola, but it's not Coca-Cola at all, right? But like my point is that Coke is not, may lean into AI, but they have so much brand equity, from a creative standpoint, that I'm sure that they're already restricted in what they can do. Whereas on the other hand, you guys are doing whatever you want, right?
We're doing whatever we want for no money. Is kind of where it's sort of the journey started. So I think for us, when I started the brand, I was like, I really didn't understand how much stuff a brand needs to make. Labels, boxes, sleeves, websites, Amazon websites, banners. It needs to be picked. Like the creative assets were just infinite. And that was the first sort of dipping our toe into AI. It's like, I need to create content. I don't have any money for photographers. How am I going to bring this brand to life? And the first thing was going to Adobe AI, again, to the point of like, is this hurting my creative soul? I know Adobe had licenses of all the creators there, so I felt really kind of like, okay, I can use them. And that was our first kind of like step into using it to break through creatively, and we had a lot of fun. Hopefully, you have it here somewhere, but.
Yeah, tell everybody just the story you told me this morning about on your flight out here, what you were doing on the flight.
Yeah, so,
and the tagline, and the punchline too.
Well, I was telling my wife I didn't know my life before AI, so I've been using now. So it started with some visuals, but now it's evolved where I use AI for everything. I don't write my own posts anymore. I don't write my own LinkedIn anymore. And so on the flight before we came out, one of the social agencies that we were working with presented an idea that was running. They wanted to run in September a back-to-school thing and how we could participate. And it's a dopamine U, and we're going to educate people on dopamine. And they had about 24 posts that they wanted us to do. And the designer is like, well, I can't do anything until you write the posts. So I'm on the plane. I'm like, I got to write these posts. And I'm like, no, I don't. Go on ChatGPT, and literally in 1 hour, I had written 24 posts that were brilliant. And I think what's amazing about it is I know creatively I'm able to write some pretty funny prompts to see what comes up. But I would say what comes back is absolutely, just as a creative, if a writer creative sent that to me, I would think it was absolutely brilliant. And the example I was telling you is we're in this health and wellness store in Malibu, and the prompt was like, write a headline about a dopamine drink being now available in Malibu. And what came back was, finally, the folks in Malibu can be happy and chill thanks to this new dopamine beverage coming in. I was like, genius. Yeah. Absolutely genius. So I'm like, fuck, we are.
Well, and think about it. That's sarcasm. It's irony. It's the like deepest level of human experience coming back. Like, finally, the people of Malibu have something to be happy about.
That is just absolutely brilliant. And every single thing that they do. It started with write a LinkedIn post, but now it's like I need them to creatively break through. So it's been a game changer for us. So.
That was on a flight just over like I don't know, Wyoming.
Yeah,
like the length of Wyoming to fly over.
I got that presentation done in an hour, and I moved on to the next one. Yep. And I asked it to write ideas for launch events in Vegas. And then I asked it for ideas, it just kept going. I just like, why? And that's when I wrote to my wife. I said, I don't remember my life. I had gotten so much done, and it was so creatively breakthrough. And I think that was something I didn't anticipate, that I was resisting. I thought they'd come back with some jumbled kind of thing that I'd have to make out, and maybe some below the line stuff of, hey, just give me a block of ingredient copy that's straight, and I could kind of use that. But no, now it's delivering, world-class creative writing.
Yeah.
And I think that's not something I anticipated.
And it may not have been true in Chat GPT 3.5, right? Like in the first run around, it maybe wouldn't have been as funny. It would have been more rote or something like that, right? So I do know that this is not the Brand Insider Summit, and it is the Data and Programmatic Summit. So we're going to get to that part of the program right now, right? So that's like the heavy on the creative, right? And it's great because the iteration that we need then on a media activation standpoint, from an audience standpoint, sort of like dovetails into that. And so sort of what we did was is basically tried to harness as much data as we possibly can. They're a startup brand, right? So it's not like they're sitting on piles and piles of data. So almost like every day that goes by, we're trying to gather as much data as we possibly can. Now they are selling through retailer, and Jason and I talked about it, and we was like, at one point I had to say, like, you're super creative on the front end, but on the back end, you're a B2B agency. I mean, a B2B brand, right? I mean, you're selling to retailers all day long.
That's really who we're selling to, because one can at a time, one 4-pack at a time on Amazon isn't going to move the needle for us. We need a stack or whatever. I don't even know the names. That's probably not good.
Right. So what we're trying to do right now is essentially ingest everything across the enterprise, and just forget that it's marketing data, right? It's not, or I should say, marketing or advertising data. It's everything. I want every investor deck that Jason and his team have put together. I want every social mention. I want every internal research they've done. I want every sort of third-party research that we've ever purchased, right? And then most importantly, and the thing that I get like super, I don't know, cranked up about all the time is any sort of conversational data. And so, for example, right now, Jason's working with his sales team, I think at our behest, to say, I need you to record every single conversation that's taking place in the sales team with retailers, with other people in market. And this is what I've done with other clients as well that have sales organizations, because that is where the most human elements of a brand is taking place. A conversation between two people, a salesperson and a retailer, a salesperson and an event coordinator or something like this, right? And because you're doing a lot of stuff in Vegas right now too, right?
Yep. And the brand messaging that the sales team is able to articulate is very different than what we're trying to convey to consumers, which is very different. And the consumer audiences are different in terms of health and wellness folks who are in the functional space versus the Walmart folks. So having the sales team who goes across everything, seeing what they're saying, hearing what they're hearing, and understanding that to create messaging has been huge.
And because we're good digital marketers, right, we're measuring everything on the backside. So we can see which conversations are leading to conversions and then which salespeople are not engaging in those conversations. So there's almost like a sales training element to it. But then it also becomes any sort of consumer feedback that you get, everything about flavors. I mean, you've changed flavor profiles based upon what's coming out of the marketplace, right?
Yep. Just in real time as well. I think just working with your team, we send out a message, and literally in one day, your team is like, you need to shift this message to this now. Play up these flavors here. These are the ones that are resonating. These ones are just sort of flat. So go in with this flavor, this message now, and we do it in real time.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just, this is how a brand that is trying to go up against Coca-Cola or Red Bull or whatever else it might be, even though you're not an energy drink, you have a can that looks like an energy drink, right? So people have that thing in their head.
Yeah, there's definitely some, like I was saying, we wanted to bring the fun to health and wellness, but because it looks fun, they don't think it's healthy. So we definitely have some communication hurdles that I didn't quite anticipate. I thought it would just be so easily embraced just because it was fun and healthy, but you got to tell people that.
Yeah. So essentially what we're doing at the agency is we developed a process that we call, well, first of all, we call the Intelligence Hub, which is the previous slide, where everything goes into one place. And I think I've explained to other people during this, the last couple of days, we're using Snowflake as our sort of base layer for the clean room for where all of that stuff goes. And we are leaning heavily into unstructured data, right? The stuff that's not sitting in tidy tables, things that are sitting in PDF files, call to text transcripts from sales teams, which, by the way, I will say once again, I think is the most golden conversion data available.
I would just warn, don't talk about the sales team when they leave, because the AI bot stays on and records you while
Fucking sales team.
while you're still talking. So if you do use AI to record, just remember it's there. Go on.
And you guys are using Fathom, right? For
Yes.
within Zoom,
Yes.
right? So if people aren't using one of these plugins for like Zoom calls, which is where unfortunately a lot of sales calls are happening, right? Just use something like a Fathom or a built-in AI from Google or whatever else it is, and that will record all of the phone calls. And most people are like only using it for meeting notes, and it drives me absolutely fucking crazy, right? Like it's intelligence, right? Every night these salespeople go to bed, and all of that intellectual capital evaporates out into space and it's not captured in any place. And customers go to bed and they do whatever they're going to do, and all of that exchange between two humans. Like here we are talking about robots taking over and all these things else. No, we're trying to capture what humans are doing. So anyways, the point of all of this is to take all of this intelligence that we now have that we've never had available to us, and then we can go into things like a live ramp. We can go into a third-party marketplace for segment data, and we can ingest all of that and start to develop bespoke segments for Jason and his team. And what that means really is that the way I look at it is we're essentially taking the illicit elixirs currency and we're strengthening that currency before we go into market. And think of it that way. When you go to market, you want to have a strong currency, right? You don't want to have a Venezuelan bolivar, right? You want to have a US dollar when you're going into market. And a really strong currency. Like I'm trying to build Bitcoin for them, basically, like the hardest asset on earth. And so what we're trying to do is like allow us, when we're going in and buying segment data or audience data, we're going in with a much more thorough understanding of our customer segments than even the platforms themselves would be able to provide to us, right? Even the deepest level of customer segments will never get at what the actual zeitgeist of his customer base is as expressed to him through things like sales calls or social sentiment or all the other things. And when you do that, and this is what we've been doing now for a couple of different years at Ciceron since ChatGPT 3.5, was to really try and build currency. And so when we get into market and we buy media, we're essentially, like he has no room for waste, for media waste. Zero room.
Zero. No, I mean, you're talking about, I mean, we thought we knew who our target was, but had we not, worked with Ciceron and understanding where the clicks are coming through or people are viewing, we would have never known that 35-year-old females is our main target. That is not what we thought going into this at all. So that fundamentally shifted our messaging and our go-to-market strategy, the stores we went to. So yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day is like, how do we not take a test and learn model? Right? That's how media people have done it all the time, is that we do a test and learn. We always ask our clients, let's do a test and learn. In this particular case, he can't even afford a test and learn. I'm not saying that like...
So mean.
Right?
No, it's sort of interesting. Again, it's going to the story like, trying to activate in Vegas with some of these larger brands. The amount of money they have to just do stuff, and it doesn't need a KPI ROI attached to it, is just like, wow, what a waste. I mean... What an absolute, what do you, really, does Red Bull really need to be at that one bar? Do they need to spend $300,000 to sponsor that one bar for one night? Like, why? Everybody knows who you are. So if I had that $300,000 and I gave it to Ciceron to do paid social, like that would change my business overnight.
Yeah.
So, and they just like, yeah, what do you need? 300?
Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
we're getting there.
I'm mad about it.
There. If anybody has a good VC, I mean, you are doing a raise, by the way.
I am doing a raise for all you high
right
net worth individuals out there. Please see me after the show.
I wanted to show a couple of his, again, just as we're closing before maybe a couple of questions, I just wanted to show a couple of things that he's doing, and you can sort of like voice over it a little bit. I think these will play.
Yeah, so this was early days. Again, I'm trying to fill out. You could just keep it as stills. Trying to fill out social with some content. So we were trying to, bring to life the feeling you get when you drink this drink that helps, support and boost your dopamine. So these are some of the images that came back, and then this was before I was using AI to write my headlines for me. So I was using it for visuals, but we just wrote some funny stories of what this was: an army of Barbies Or the second one was my favorite of today is the day the claw is going to come for me. I really thought that was funny. And then, you know, the feeling of riding a dolphin. So we used all, we prompted it with, here's what we think the feeling of illicit elixirs gives you and dopamine gives you. And I just got back all of these hilarious visuals that I don't know if an art direct, like these would be $1 million shoots and retouching and CGI to kind of recreate these stories. And it was, I had hundreds of these that I could just write to, and it was really great.
I don't know if this plays back there. I'm not sure if I can get these to play, or if it translated from Google Slides over to PowerPoint. But these are animated, and even the animation alone with the headlines that come up and the illicit elixirs bumper on it, it's just like you just said, that's like $500,000 worth of work.
Yeah, $500,000. It costs us $0.
I have a question over here for you guys.
Yes, please.
I want to start doing questions. So it's really great. I have about 30 questions for you about how you actually get a brand built up from the bottom like that. But here's a data-oriented question. You talked, especially Andrew, about you have conversational data, sales data, social data, audience data, all these data streams that you're trying to feed into this mechanism to help you figure out how to improve the brand and tell the story better. At what point do you think that this is maybe too many data streams, and I need to either weight them or I need to shut off some so I can have a little bit more focus? And at what point, specifically for you, Jason, do you actually override the data and say, you know what, I have an idea that I just want to test no matter what?
Yep. I can answer that. I can answer that part first, just playing off the what we were finding when we were getting data that most of our sales were coming from, say, 35-year-old female, was they were buying it because they thought their kids would think it's cool. So I didn't shift my messaging, because if I shifted my messaging to just appease to a different audience, they would maybe not think it's cool.
It wouldn't be cool anymore.
So that was one point where I saw the data, but then we had to make a decision of like, well, why? What's the reasoning behind their purchase? So that was one example there.
To answer your question, Corey, I think that all of us, myself included, are way underestimating the capabilities of AI, even out of the box right now. Right? So if I can have, in our intelligence hub, inside Snowflake or whatever it is, right, not just marketing data, segment data, social sentiment, but I can get financials, and I can get performance data and all this. I literally ask it, what do I think the performance is going to be out of this campaign? Right? How and where are the snakes and alligators in here that I should be aware of? And if it's learned everything, if it's learned Jason's business, then it's learned everything that I'm doing and everything that I fed it, it's going to come back at least with directional recommendations about what I do. I'm trying to get his risk profile down to 0.
Right. And do you care at all? I mean, the bigger companies that you're competing with, they care overly, like way too much, about their data now being put into an AI system that therefore is open web enabled. So are you using a private label of the AIs, or does it not really matter if it's out there now?
That is a choice that that the brands can make one way or the other. I don't think he sits around staring at the ceiling thinking about it at night.
No, I haven't even thought of it. I'm just using the ones that are well known. The only decision I made on consciously was to use Adobe for visuals because they had the license from the artist. I think that was.
Yeah.
We have a question over here. I
Just
know you
real
want to
quick
keep
for us.
asking Corey, but
I know.
There's no such thing as too much data, I would say, starting out. I think for us, just even understanding the markets that we're resonating with as we make decisions on where to get distributors or anything like that. So we're not even close to that point. To answer your question.
Yeah, we're using, and just so you know, we're using Llama because it's open source, and I can literally stick an open source AI on a jump drive and have it run locally.
Wow, okay.
Right? So, yeah.
Yes.
Right out in front.
I just finished my first can. I'm feeling great.
Real fruit and fizz, no caffeine, no artificial sweetener, non-GMO, gluten-free.
Okay, we'll do his, and then we'll do yours.
We're good. Great. Harmon with Consumer.ai. I am wondering, it sounds like you don't spend a lot on paid media at this point, but if you are going to spend more money on paid media, where would you do that, and would you let AI guide you in that?
We are spending on paid media and targeted markets with Ciceron. So that is our plan to kick off was owned assets plus PR, and then to amplify in some of our bigger markets to do some paid support. We launched in over 300 Walmarts right away. They're spread out everywhere for maximum inconvenience. And so had we not had the Ciceron as our partner to understand and pivot in real time where our customers were within those 300 that were ordering off Amazon or wherever it was, and then we just went all in on those markets. So we do need more paid dollars, though, for sure, because just going one market at a time, it's infuriating because we want to be bigger, but we're impatient. Sorry. Hi.
Hi, I'm Maggie with Butler Till. I have 2 questions, if possible. How did you guys find each other?
Online? No.
Swipe right.
Online?
Contractor.
A contractor, yeah. So my wife's friend went to school with somebody who works at Ciceron. But and it's a good. I'll praise you for a second though. But because coming from ad agencies, I've worked with every media company as well. But nobody was talking about AI and what it could do for my business and give me an advantage the way Ciceron was. All the performance, and I'll give even more props. There's a thing that exists I never knew existed is as your product starts to age out, there's companies out there that will buy it for media dollars. I'm like, that's a thing. But it's not performance media. And so for us, I'm like, it's not worth anything for us. If I can't maximize it where $1 equals $100, then what is the point? It's just sort of wasted. Maybe someday we'll be Red Bull and we can kind of waste that kind of money. But it really was the performance that Andrew and Ciceron brings to the table is really what's got us really excited.
Awesome. Are you able to disclose which AI tools or platforms that you guys are using? I know you talked about Adobe.
Llama.
I've never heard of Llama. Cool.
Well, that's Meta's. So Llama is Meta's. Strangely enough, one of the greatest ironies in all of this is that the company that brought us the Cambridge Analytica data breach is now the one that's providing probably the strongest open source AI model. And then there's Mistral as well, right? And so there's ways to do other lockdowns. I mean, let's be honest. I'm using all of them, right? I have all tabs open at all times, and I'm A, B, C, D testing among all of the models simply because we're in a race right now, and there's no winner. So I'm looking at OpenAI, I'm looking at Claude, I'm looking at Llama, I'm looking at Mistral, I'm looking at Gemini, and all the time. And I'm basically just having a shootout among all of them to see what we can learn. Now, I'm not connecting data necessarily to all of them, right? So it's all of them.
I just use ChatGPT to write all my ads for me now.
Casey Harsh from Kinesso UM, so agency side. I do both media actually and creative, so love to hear kind of the data and creative coming together. So it sounds like you get a lot of your data and then you're again kind of taking creative and insights there. Are you informing kind of prompts from the data in form, or are you actually connecting it in some way in there? Or is it again just more of a prompt that you're taking information from?
I just want to make sure I'm understanding the question. So the data that the Ciceron team is getting, am I using that to write my headlines, or am I using that to literally type in that data into ChatGPT and see what it gives me?
Yeah, is it giving you the prompt? Is it informing how you prompt AI, or is it somehow you're connecting it at all?
No, it's absolutely informing it, because I think a lot of the data that's coming through, we didn't anticipate. So we have lines, or we have creative based on our assumptions, but those assumptions are being challenged every single day as we get data. I hope I understood that question.
Yeah,
really.
For sure. And just to be clear, our prompts are like this long, right? They're a page long, a prompt, right? Because I'm literally informing the AI the business challenge that I'm trying to do. This is not a search engine. This is not an enhanced search engine. I was with you, Lisa, and Charleston last year, and I'm like, what happens when search becomes answer, right? And that's exactly what we're at now. And so if you prompt it, you have to prompt a business plan. You got to put a little bit of a Wharton School hat on, not like a Donald Trump Wharton School, like a real one. And I'm like, you know what? Sorry.
Saturday, everything goes.
Saturday morning, yeah, exactly. But so the prompts are really big, and then more importantly and more fun is write me the script that would build the API between this data source and that data source. Python, right? And it's just are you kidding me? Data science is great. Execution is better, right? putting stuff in market and have a high conversion rate because you have the smartest person in the world on your team, aka AI. Right? This is the smartest staff member anybody's ever going to have on their team. It's smarter than me. It's smarter than Jason. And as soon as you come to that realization, it really opens you up and frees you up.
Maybe the most creative.
And maybe the most creative. And that is the thing. I think that's the breaking the veil, right?
That's a little bit the scary part.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I think we need a recording of Andrew actually admitting someone's smarter than him, but.
No, I actually want to hear whatever AI you're using that makes the sound after it gives you an answer. That's pretty cool.
You guys, that was awesome. Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you, guys.